Well, it's always like that, you test things 5 times before, and then the sixth time it doesn't work when it has to.
Yeah, it
But I think
happens.
we'll go. We'll go. So redirecting to streaming page. I think we should be live now. Yes. Okay. Okay. Just had to do the usual fix we people from the IT industry do. You shut it off and you turn it on again. Luckily, it works a lot of
Yeah.
the times. So let's then start. We'll say that we are at 270 people. So thank you everyone for joining. It's a pleasure. I have to say we are up for a great hour or maybe hour and a half of talk. So give me a minute or two to do the announcements, and you'll get to hear from Willie and Regan. So my name is Perica. I'm a co-founder of 57 Hours, a platform where you can find the best, find and book the best guided outdoor adventures. And I'm proud to present in partnership with Adventure Journal, a new epic adventure webinar where a famous guide from the Everest, Willie Benegas of the Benegas brothers, and his client and climbing partner, Regan Rick, will tell us their story of how they ascended Everest in 2017, with Willie going more into detail on what's required to prepare for a successful Everest ascent, and Regan telling us his side of the story, how it was to prepare and how it was to finally summit the top of the world. The presentation by Willie and Regan will last for about an hour, and then we'll follow up with a Q&A. You can leave your questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom, and you can also chat between yourselves in the chat, but just make sure that you chat to all panelists and attendees, so everybody else can hear you. Again, the recording will be available and made published on our YouTube channel, and if you want to make sure you don't miss it, I'll leave in the chat the link where you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our great partner, Adventure Journal, who co-promoted this event, is giving away 1 year subscription to their excellent magazine. If you're a fan of adventure, as we all are at 57 Hours, make sure you go there and check it out. The winner will be announced tomorrow via email, and everybody else will be able to enjoy the recording. For all of us here today, let's enjoy the show we have ahead of us. I won't do any more. Willie and Regan, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Willie. Regan is on the other side. And I just want to give you a little bit, just presentation or a little background of who I am and where I come from. I'm an IFMGA mountain guide. I've been guiding for almost 30 years. A little bit of Everest here, a little bit of Aconcagua over there, and just chasing mountains. And I had the amazing opportunity to meet Regan years ago in Denali, and I want to just, Regan, it's on you.
Hello, everyone, or hello, fellow adventurers, I should say. I'm Regan, and I was a corporate lawyer and banker for a few decades before I started climbing in my early 50s. And with Willie's help, I've been able to stand on top or the side, you can see in that picture, of some pretty cool places. I've learned a ton from Willie, and it's all been a tremendous amount of fun. So I want to point out that my role today is to provide you with a perspective of a normal person who's only climbed Everest once and is pretty happy about it.
Wait a minute. I thought we were going back again.
I don't like, I still don't like crossing ladders, Willie.
Well, you have practiced well. So we're going to talk a little bit, as Perica said, preparation training, how just Regan trained with me in how we met and what I thought and what he needed to work with. And just give you a little idea of what it takes to climb Everest and what I see of Everest as the good and the bad. Everyone knows about Everest for the last couple of years, it has received a lot of bad publicity. And it's true, there's a lot of bad things happening, but at the same time, it's a lot of good things. And Everest is extremely important part of Nepal as country, as economy. So I want to introduce you to just near the world of the mountains. I grew up in Patagonia, population 8, no mountains, just oceans, a lot of penguins. I have a twin brother who was easy to do things when you have a twin brother, because all you have to do, I dare you. If I say I dare you to Damien, Damien will do it. If Damien say it, I dare you, I will do it. So, you know, that was easy. We have some chickens, we have some penguins. And as I said before, no mountains are not rocks to climb. One thing about Patagonia is just the necessity is mother all inventions. So we have learned to climb at the chin of our house. And we have no trees neither, it's a desert. So we just figured out along the way. Sometime in the early 80s, I think was 81, 82, one of the cold winters, we were able to capture this book about climbing Everest. And instantly we let our imagination run wild. We wanted to do that, you know, just, we wanted to follow the steps of Tenzing Norway, of Henry Hillary. And just, I wanted to see what it takes, you know, to climb Everest. But again, you know, as a kid, with not much resources, but significant amount of dreaming, I guess, and passion. And we realized that we needed to move from Argentina and come to the US, and we started working in whatever we can job we can get, from flipping burgers to working in boats in the Bay Area. And then eventually I began to be a guide in trainee, and time passed, and then in 1999, I was invited to guide, or offered to guide Everest. And for me, that was a dream come true. In May 12th of 1999, I stood on the summit of Everest. And yes, I brought a penguin, Safa penguin, just to bring the memory of the first time I find out about what Everest was. And it was an easy journey. It's a journey that took many years of practice, from climbing the chin from my house to Aconcagua and just multiple other stuff. So what it takes, if the goal, Everest is your ultimate goal, I strongly believe in you can do it. Just you had to take your time and build a strong foundation. And you can start by climbing Kilimanjaro, who give you a little bit of that high altitude training. And eventually you're going to build to move to Aconcagua, who's Aconcagua almost, I would say 6,000 meters, sorry, almost 7,000 meters. It gives you the perfect introduction to the art of suffering. And Reagan, you know about that, yes?
I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I think you learned enough if you went up to the top of the world.
Well, I'm trying not to retake the course, but I am familiar with it.
Yeah. So Aconcagua is an extremely long summit day at 7,000 meters. Is almost just, I would say, almost a half of the ocean level, the sea level. And, you know, super cold, windy. It's just a perfect recipe of training ground to tackle bigger objectives. And that's Aconcagua. So that not only, you know, gaining high altitude experience is just one thing, but the reality in Everest, it's just, you need to be a climber, a mountaineer. So just own your skills, begin to be self-efficient. This one, for example, we train in Mont Blanc area. Just do a lot of things. Just learn about your winner's medicine, advanced training. It just is so much over there. Do cut corners. It's just extremely important. And that's something that Reagan and I will learn, we learn of each other about that, about not cutting corners, about training. Once you get that, just let's go for our Everest specific training. But first, do your homework. Climb a lot of mountains. Going to climb Baker, for example, could give a little bit of that glacial environment without that much risk. Come here to the West and climbing, for example, the Southway to Superior. It's a lot of small objectives you can tackle in the US, in Europe, or around the world. Then they give you the basic knowledge of what it takes to climb a mountain. And if you build it up with your high altitude experience, Everest is possible. This, for example, this is just Baker, training in Baker. But I want to now just give it to Reagan. And Reagan, I guess it's your turn to just tell me, how we met and then what was your journey? Because we have some good days and hard days in our training ground.
Well, that art of suffering did kick in. And so Willie and I met on Denali. And as I had said, I started climbing later in life. And I took a mountaineering course for just a week. And then I went to Denali and really was underprepared for what I was going to experience on Denali. So that's the summit of Denali with Willie and our team. And that summit day was a tough day for me. And we still got down. We got down safely. Willie's outstanding at that. And afterwards, I called Willie and I asked him what I should do to progress as a mountaineer. I had an opportunity to do an 8,000 meter peak in the fall after Denali, and I wanted his advice. And he advised me against jumping right back to a bigger mountain, and went back to that foundation. And Willie pointed out that I had 3 gaps in my climbing. First of all, I didn't know how to climb. I had very basic and not even very good basic climbing skills. And I was very fortunate to have some awesome teammates and guides to get me up and down Denali safely. But as Willie said, you need to be self-sufficient. And we didn't have anything really go bad on Denali, but if it would have, I wouldn't have been able to contribute like I would have wanted. So Willie and I started a program of working on those basic climbing skills. And so a lot of climbing relates to each other. So rock climbing is still very helpful for the alpine environment. I don't know, Willie, what you've got on the slide coming after this one?
Oh, we have the perfect alpine environment.
well, yeah, this is Florida. I was living in Florida at the time, and we're making do with what we've got. The highest point in Central Florida was my office, and fortunately I had a pool. But after that pool, we started taking like micro trips. So we went to the North Cascades and did a lot of ridge climbing. We worked on crevasse rescue. We did a lot of rock climbing. That's, a great shot of, just getting used to exposure and rock systems. We went down to Moab in southern Utah and climbed some towers there. And so this one is an example in the Red Rocks where Willie is instructing me on a hold that I should have used. I am showing him the hold I did use right before I fell. And so, it's a lot about learning and learning systems and continuing to build that foundation. And like I said, we went to Moab after that. And then we kind of ended up in the Wasatch. That's a shot at one of the towers in Moab. It's either Six Shooter or Castleton. And this shot is on, what is that, the west rib of Olympus, Willie?
The Carroll's Ridge and Mount Olympus, just at the base
Okay.
of Salt Lake City.
Yeah, and you can see down in the valley, Salt Lake City's right there. And it's a great training environment. You fly in, you don't have to camp. You can stay in a decent hotel and still get a lot of good exposure to lots of ridge climbing and backcountry skiing. And that one of my daughters and I are climbing up this ridge with Willie. And all that experience helps bring together, and address one of my other shortcomings, which was balance. I had a background as a runner. And when you run on road or you're a cyclist, on road or a swimmer, it's really hard to develop those stabilizer muscles. And so my balance was a little sketchy. And when you're sketchy, you burn a lot of energy on a big mountain just because you're nervous. And so things like this and backcountry skiing in the Wasatch all contribute to building that foundation. I don't know if you've got a slide. That's the approach to Mount Superior, not the ridge climb. But that's a beautiful backcountry skiing environment. And so when you're backcountry skiing, it still helps your balance and how to work on snowshoes or crampons. It all relates. And so all this was learning in a very fun environment. And so, I'd go out and I'd train and I'd learn and I'd tell people what I'm doing. And they're like, you're just playing. But it was all true.
So, but then, as we're moving forward on this training, I told Reagan, well, Reagan, that's fine. Now you can allow these basic elements of mountaineering, climbing. Let's just go for the next step. It's just be a little more specific about Everest. Our goal was there. We'll still, there's a lot of micro goals along the way. And I guess this one, Reagan, is in Cotopaxi, Ecuador, yeah?
Right. And I don't know if you can tell in the lower portion of the photo, you'll see a rope. Willie had set up a fixed line climbing situation in the lower part of a glacier on Cotopaxi. And we practiced transitioning through the fixed lines in a pretty small icefall environment. And there's a lot of skills that you're very specific to Everest, and going through the fixed lines, crossing crevasses, ascending them, doing a Sherpa rappel, Willie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sherpa and rappel.
Yeah. And those are all very different and specific skills. Then after this, Willie, I think you've got another ladder shot. Willie sensed that I didn't like crossing ladders. And so I had a pretty low fall environment there. And then after that, I think there's a good emphasis on, once your guide or your trainer really gets to know you, they learn how to motivate you. So we decided to do some avalanche beacon search and avalanche safety training. And so in my beacon search, I did get a prize. And so I think, now, Willie, I was a little disappointed. I think another client of yours got a bottle of wine. And so apparently I'm more of a beer guy.
Yeah, but yes. You're a beer guy, was a bottle of rat. Just other brand.
Yeah. Well, I should have come over. I am a very proud Hoosier from Indiana, but maybe I can upgrade in the future.
Yeah. So again, the bottom line is, it's just about training. Keep training. Keep perfect your skills. And the more self-reliance you are, the safer is the journey to whatever goal you have. Not only, it could be Everest, it could be anything. It could be Mont Blanc in Europe, or Rainier here. Just because you're going with a guy, it doesn't mean that everything is on your guide and you just know how to learn anything. Either Reagan took an EMT class, because that just pretty actually surprised me and make me quite happy when you decide to take your EMT class. That's emergency medical technician, because every time with something, I would say, hey, Reagan, can you take care of that? So it took away a little bit of their medical responsibility, health responsibility. Then I have mostly a lot of trips. So now, once we Reagan and I, we were ready. It was time for us to to look to the other goal. Our goal was just Everest. And obviously, the main goal of climbing Everest is here, but it still is a lot of micro goals along the way. And what I have found out is that if you, and Reagan, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you make that goal the only goal on your life, that summit or that, whatever it is, just Everest in this case, and suddenly you see that it's, you're sick, you're just having a tough day, whatever it is, and you say, there's no way I can make it to the summit. There's no way I can be able to make this. You might not. What if I find out then that final goal is far away, then I make myself small cheated goals along the way. My first goal is just to get to Everest Base Camp without getting sick. And that's just my priority for that trip. But anyway, we understand that in climbing Everest, and we all have seen the news about Everest and how bad it is. I think I said before. And I have to say that Everest without our Sherpas, without the help of them, without the help of Nepal as a country, it would be impossible. The impact of climbers on Everest is pretty significant. And I have to say there's not perhaps the best one. But I try to make it as less impactful as possible and as safer as possible. I have to say then the industry of Everest in general has mean the full economy of from the trekkers to the climbers is roughly about $300 million a year. That was in 2018. That is about 8% of the gross domestic of Nepal. So if I say we should shut down Everest completely because we destroy the mountain, I agree. But we need to find a solution where at the same time, community of Nepal can survive economically and be able to provide for their families. Right now with the COVID situation, the situation is terrible. It's just pretty bad. They're just, the Sherpa community is actually doing, I think, the end, they make quite well in Everest trips. Then they can take care with savings, but the porters and the people who should provide supplies to the lodges is the one who suffer the most. And that ones are, they have nothing, they have no food right now. It's just plain and simple. One of the good things about the positive impact of climbers, it's just the simple sign. Welcome to Pamboche Primary School, established by Hillary in 1963. He noticed that in the Khumbu Valley, where Everest is situated, didn't have any schools at all, none, zero. And he built that school. And I would like to think that thanks to the Everest climbers, other schools have been built. As a matter of fact, now they're Sherpas who are pilots, doctors, you name it. And 50 years ago, that was just out of the question. It was just, no one knew how to write, pretty much. The Sherpas for me are, and Reagan, quite well. They're like my brothers. They treat me as a brother, and Willie dies, my big brother. And, I will treat them as my brothers. And the person to my, with the blue hat, his name is Lapa. Lapa guided for me for years. He was the seater, the Sherpa boss. And he worked enough to save enough money to eventually move to San Francisco. And now he's a police officer in San Francisco. And I just,
Nice.
I'm pretty, pretty happy about it. Hopefully, if I'm driving in San Francisco and just do something like, going too fast, whatever, I will always wish it would be Lapa die waiting for me. It says, Willie die, you're going too fast. Slow down. I had to write your ticket still. But another thing is just, it's just opportunities, yes? It's about creating opportunities. And the person to the right is Maila. Maila Rai, he's a member of a cast who was not permitted to climb Everest. He was permitted to work as a base camp kitchen boy, carrying water, washing dishes, taking care of things. And somehow I convinced the Sherpas, we all talk about it, then we all should have an opportunity. And so let's let him climb Everest. He said, no, Willie died, that's not possible. And then eventually 1 year they said, yeah, Willie died, we're going to take him up Everest. And there he is on the summit of Everest. He's next to Lapa. And then he is the first rider from his cast to summit Everest. It's pretty unique. And Maila, Super Smaila, he's a cook now and still working. He has no summit Everest since, but he did have the chance. And for him and for every Sherpa to stand on the top of Everest, it's a pretty unique thing and pretty important. So we arrive at Kathmandu. We have everything ready. Reagan, you remember how crazy is Kathmandu, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's crazier probably.
Yeah, yeah. So we all, again, we spent a few days in Kathmandu organizing, doing the final shopping, doing the permits, all the political, also the bureaucracy of getting a permit. And Nepal has a pretty high level bureaucracy to deal with. And that's okay. It just takes a few days. And eventually, we are ready to go. And again, everyone saw pictures of Everest being pretty crowded. Actually, for me, the most crowded part of the entire expedition is going to be the airport. This is actually kind of like a picture of last year on the Hillary Step where there's 200 people trying to fit through a door of 2 feet wide. Going to security. Hey, puppy. So the journey start roughly once we fly to Lukla, who is the gates of the Everest of National Park per se of the Kumbh Valley. We have roughly about 40 miles hiking to base camp. It takes about 10 days to get to base camp. Not because the distance is mostly because we need to acclimatize. We cannot, Everest base camp is 17,000 feet. We landed at 9,000. So if we go straight to Everest base camp and landed over there, we are going to be a little bit sick. So we take our time to make it to base camp. We just hike along the way, visit Sherpa's families and just meeting new friends along the way, just Kumbu, believe it or not, these dogs made all the way to come to Everest and went through the icefall. Pretty unique guide, and he wanted to get fit. Another stop along the way, one of the most important one for me and for my Sherpas, is to visit Lama Geshe. Lama Geshe is old Lama, the most important Lama of the valley per se. And you guys can see in the background a lot of pictures of climbers. This picture, actually, Dalai Lama. He didn't speak English. He speak a little bit of Nepali, but speak Tibetan mostly. And he will give us a blessing allow us to enter Everest. And he was the only human beings who make me cry. And not because he has bring a lot of sadness to me, just the energy he imposed on me in his aura. Reagan, you remember him, yes?
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I met him at least 2, maybe 3 times. But on AMA, he made a special trip to come to our tea house to give us the blessing. And I remember when he got there, and he was pretty advanced age at the time. It was impressive for him to make the trip. But he looked at you and he grinned and he said, "There are 2 of you."
Yeah, my twin brother. The beauty of having a twin brother is you can escape with a lot of things. It wasn't me, it was Damien. It wasn't me, it was Damien. So anyway, once we just get the blessing for Lama Geshe, eventually we're right at base camp. And base camp is a pretty unique place. As I said, after 10 days of hiking and resting, acclimatizing, we're right to base camp, 70,000 feet approximate. We arrived to the end of this valley. Oh, we can see, we cannot truly see Everest. It's because it's behind the west shoulder, but we see this entire cirque of huge mountains and this huge river of ice. It's the ice fall. The low latitude on left, and it's just a moraine, a rocky moraine with the glacier, terminal glacier on in front of us. And it's kind of like a mining town, yes? All this amazing base camp built up over this rocky moraine. Not only that, just 2 weeks early was nothing there. And they're going to be there for the next 40 days, 45 days. It's going to be our home. The first few days, Everest base camps are tough. Reagan, you've done really well high altitude, so you didn't experience too much with the high altitude sickness at base camp.
Well, I think a lot of it had to do with taking our time coming in. I mean, that trek through the Khumbu Valley takes quite a while, and I think it helped. It's like developing climber skills. The more you're in an environment, the more comfortable you feel. So I was pretty comfortable. We took our time, and your food's pretty good, and that helps.
Yeah, Argentinians, we're proud of our food. That's true. But obviously we have an amazing cook and stuff. So yeah, you're right to base camp, everything's set up. The first few days are a little tough because suddenly your body is realizing, wait a minute, 17,000 foot, 5,000 meters above sea level. Humans are not designed to be living permanently at that elevation, so your body needs to adapt to that. We are waiting for the specific date for the puja. The puja is a ceremony where we ask permission to the god of the mountain of Everest, Chomolunga, Sagarmatha, for safe passage. And that date is pretty specific on the calendar, and we're waiting for that day. And usually we have a lama coming in to perform the puja. And it's a chance to meet with their team of Sherpas finally. The Sherpas will be, they arrive at the base camp 2 weeks early to set it up. And suddenly I had to say that our team finally is complete, is tied in. Sherpas are happy to see us again. This is Dorji and Kiki, one of our guides, who just, it's been a year, and hey, Kiki died. So yeah, just it's a time to rest and get strong and start thinking what is our next goal. Once the push is done, and we kind of acclimatize already, our next goal is going to be start going through the icefall. But prior to that is, just as Reagan can say a lot, it's just about just because you have a race, it doesn't mean you cannot stop training. The more you train it, the more you perfect that skill, the better it's going to be your journey to Everest, and the higher chances at the end of you coming home alive. For me, training our Sherpas team are the ones who has the higher level exposure to going through the icefall, because the ones who has to carry a lot of the load is the ones who I want to be sure they're completely trained. In this case, we're doing a medical training with them. It's pretty awesome. They just, whatever gear they have, and as I say, necessity is smart all the inventions. We do a crevasse rescue training. In this case, for example, I try to invite teams of members or Sherpas from other teams to be part of this. And we have all the seaters, so the bosses of the other teams coming in to be participant of this crevasse rescue training. It's pretty awesome to work with. And then, with that said, is we all seen pictures of Everest, and somehow magically we always seen pictures of Everest, of climbers in Everest, but we never see pictures of our Sherpas, or I climb Everest, and the Sherpas are secondary in that story. And Sherpas for us are our members, are our teams. We're all together, and we all are here as a team. We have the same goal, is just to go home alive, safe, have a great time. And our finally, maybe final goal is Everest. The first goal is always safe, good time, and just get to know each other. And Reagan, you remember our boys a little bit. We Pemba Lapa die. It's pretty funny.
No, it was great, and you did a great job. You and Damien really emphasize it, of integrating the team early and getting to build those relationships with your entire team, not just your client team, I think is a huge deal. And I mean, it's fun. And these people are fantastic, amazing, interesting people, and happy. And it's great to know them anyway. But I think it really adds to safety a lot too, Willie. When you're up there on the mountain and you've got relationships with all the people that you're climbing with, that you're depending on, it just makes it a lot better. And I think it just makes the experience a lot richer anyway.
Yeah. And do not play cards with them. You lose a lot of money really fast.
Yeah. Well, it's paying it forward a little bit.
Yeah, true to that. So, Reagan, you want to talk a little bit about the acclimatization process? How was it for you?
I thought it went well. I know it's changed over the years, but, we were there in 2017. And I think by that time, everybody continues to learn. I think you've adapted your program too, but you're making rotations up the mountain. I think a lot of people have heard about that. And you climb to a higher level and you retreat a little bit to sleep at a lower level. But one of the things on Everest that you also manage is going through the Khumbu icefall. And the icefall has a lot of objective hazards. And I think, Willie, you've limited your trips through the icefall over the years, haven't you?
Yeah, it's true. When I first started climbing Everest, it was just, 10 passes through the icefall, sleeping at Camp 3 at 7,000 meters. You must go from base camp to Camp 2, one shot, and then spend a night at Camp 3 at 7,000 meters before you ever be considered to climb Everest. And we have learned along the way that it didn't work out that well.
Can you maybe really move us to?
Yeah.
Can you move us to the next slide so we can see the camps and what you're talking about? Because I think it's really interesting. So moving up and down.
You can see base camp to Camp 1, the first run is about 4 to 6 hours, Reagan, yeah?
Right, depending on the team and the crowd and so forth.
And base camp to Camp 2 on the first run is another 4 hours, and eventually you can drop it to 2. and base camp 2 to camp 3 is another 6 to 3 hours, depends the teams and the conditions and the crowds. But you can see, guys, over there, then it's a significant amount of distance to cover. Elevation gain, base camp is at 5,000 meters, camp 1 is at 6,000 meters, camp 2 is at 6,400 meters, camp 3 is 7,100, 200 meters, depends where you're located. So elevation gain is significant. The average, we're trying to keep less than, in the average, 1,000 meters per day elevation gain as maximum. So we are there, yes. And we're trying to limit the exposure to the icefall, not only for us, but for Sherpas as well. So less transitions we do, the less transition for the Sherpas as well. Here, climbing Everest is about, the way I see it is, you have a big jar of coins and an empty jar, and you keep pushing jars one side to this side. Sooner or later, you might have it, the bad luck of being in an accident. For me, it's been 20 years, and I have to say, then I'm lucky enough that I have never been involved in an accident. I have never have a Sherpa or a member be involved in an accident. I have been involved in a lot of rescues, and Reagan, you know all about it. But yeah, let's just play safe. Once you reach Camp 1 is when you truly see Everest. How was it for you, Reagan, when you reached Camp 1?
It was a bit of a relief getting through the ice fall and topping out. And I know the first time I went there, the circumstances were a little more challenged, but you get a bit of relief. And then for me, it kind of struck me how much further distance-wise it was through the Western Cumb before you hit the Lhotse face. And then, I mean, all the peaks out there are so amazing. And so you're looking at so many different peaks. And then by the time you finally see this mountain that you've heard about for so long, in some ways you can't wait to get to it. In some ways you're glad you stopped to take a break.
So our acclimatation process started, our first journey is through the icefall, and you can see in the icefall, in the night, you can see the lights in the background, just they call the white snake. You know, in the past, it has been always the mountain and us, the humans, and now it's us, the humans, and the mountain. So if suddenly the icefall is becoming too busy, we're going to go back to sleep. If not that busy, we're going to start the journey. We're going to work as hard as possible to make the journey to each camp or to summit areas with the less amount of exposure as possible. And when you have a lot of climbers around us, the exposure is beginning to be more significant because you're in a traffic jam, you cannot move. And you know, it doesn't matter if Everest, it doesn't matter if it's Mont Blanc, it doesn't matter if it's Denali or K2 right now in the middle of winter. It's just a lot of people who wants to go and play, and we have to respect that and expect that. And we just have to make it a way where how we can do this with less impact and as safe as possible. The icefall is just the basic example. It's a gigantic pile of ice cubes the size of buildings within a constant stage of moving. We use ropes, we use ladders to go through them. And this is just a classic example of a section where it's just, there's 4 ladders. The maximum I have is almost 10 ladders. So imagine this is 4 when you see a 10 ladder. Yeah, it's pretty.
Willie, those, and you should point out, those aren't the ladders that painters use. These are ladders that I'm scared of going up on top of one of them. And somehow the icefall doctors lash these together and it works, but these aren't the best ladders on the planet.
No, it's not. No, Asphalt Doctors, just to everyone, is a team of specialized Sherpas who their job and their job only is to fix the entire length of the asphalt all the way to Cantu. We're talking roughly about 5 kilometers, and is just fixed with ropes and ladders and you name it. In a good day, in a good season, we might have 15 ladders in a 5, and in a hard season, we might have 30. That means bridges to be collected, to pass through. These Sherpas, these team of Sherpas are provided by the government of Nepal, and we as a base camp pay directly to the government of Nepal to take care of this. And just as you climb the icefall, we just eventually we know it's the end of the icefall, and it brings a big relief. Reagan was pretty happy every time he reached the end of the icefall, except when he needed to pass this one. It just ladders can be a little wobbly in Reagan.
Yeah, they get very wobbly, and those holes are very deep and dark, and I don't want to be there.
Yeah, but here there's a bit of this. We all just kind of helping each other. There's just, you have the handrails, and then I don't know if you remember, but sometimes they're a little loose. So a Sherpa will come behind you for a completely different team, and obviously that Sherpa wants you to move as fast as possible. So he will come in, tense the rope so you can cross it, and it's okay, die, bye. So eventually we pass that, we reach to Camp 1, that's the first rotation. In the past, as Reagan said, that we used to go up to Camp 1 and come down, just touch and come down. Now it's straightforward. Our first rotation is to go up and reach all the way to Camp 2. And this is the view that Reagan was talking about. You arrive at this amazing, the glacier surrounded with huge mountains, Everest on the left, lots at the end and the back, and then Noops at your right. As a matter of fact, you almost can see, I climb a new route on the right side over there somewhere back when I was young, and I did have sense of immortality a lot. Now that doesn't happen anymore. So we reached Camp 1, we set up Camp 1, we're going to spend a couple of days over there. Our mojo, and Reagan can say, talk about this, is if you want to climb Everest, you expect that you're going to suffer a lot, but that doesn't mean you should not eat well. And the better you eat, the happier is your tummy, the happier is your heart, the happier is your soul. It makes some of the suffering less significant. Damien is just really proud of his bagels. So he goes to the supermarket here in Salt Lake City and buys dozens and dozens of bagels and cream cheese and smoked salmon, and we just have a picnic at 6,000 meters in the Khumbu. Our next journey this is a view for our Camp 1, and we start a journey from Camp 1 to Camp 2. This is the beginning of the season, so the jet stream is on top of Everest. You can see the plumes of winds blowing. On the left is Everest, and you can see the wind is pretty strong over there. Reagan, you remember that wind, so you can hear the train routing, yeah?
Oh yeah, and those are probably when the jet stream is not at its most fierce. So it reminds you pretty quickly how small you are. Yeah.
And here, despite being on 6,000 meters, the way how the glacier is situated and you're surrounded by these mountains, you get to this effect, the heat effect. And this, I have to say, this is the places where the hardest I've been in my life. You remember that day is hiking up to Camp 2.
That was my hardest day. The first time I went through the Western Cumb was my hardest day. We left probably a little later than we should have, and I literally put snow in my pants to cool down. it's just an oven in there with all that reflection.
Yeah, it gets super hot, guys. As Reagan say, my recommendation is start cold and finish warm. Do not start hot and finish cooking. That means start much earlier than us. We were a little lazy that morning. Sometimes we like to sleep well. So here, I want to talk a little bit about adapting to progress.
De campo 3. Campo 3 está ahí, inferior,
This is Demi explaining a little bit about
banda amarilla.
an issue we have years ago
Y ahí es por ejemplo,
where
¿qué problemas tenemos? Mucha caída de
it was a
fibra,
really dry year, a lot of rock falls
entonces, vamos a buscar la ruta
falling
alternativa.
from the top, from the
Hasta ahí.
Lhotse
Todo por ahí.
through a route on the Lhotse face
Sí,
all the
¿qué
way to
pasa?
San Fri.
Me
And,
siento re bien, ¿no?
and Demi is feeling pretty good about it too. So anyway, just because we have a plan, doesn't mean we have to stick to the plan. You know, Everest is about adapting in just to the issue and how we can overcome to that issue. That year was pretty bad. I mean, we just, as base camp unit, we said, well, their team's going home because they found that it was too dangerous to climb Everest with a rockfall section. Mostly because, yes, we don't want to expose our Sherpas to that, to the rockfall. And I agree 100%. But we noticed that it was just, you know, the years of experience in Everest is, hey, let's just make a new route and get outside of the final section. And Damian went up and fixed a new route, and that year, Everest was able to summit Everest without fatal accidents because Damian was able to say, that's it, I just going to go grab a team of Sherpas and guides, we're going to go and fix this. And that's gone through back to the problems we have in Everest with the current overcrowding and all these accidents that you guys saw last year, for example. And you probably have seen for the last previous years. It's just people get to this tunnel vision, then I had to go on A, B, C, D to make it to the summit, and there's no variations. But anyway, our acclimatation process is done. It's time for us to go down to base camp and eat some good food. And Balaram is the most important member of the team because he's the cook. And as I said before, without a happy tummy, no one climbs Everest. And Reagan, you can testify about that too a little bit.
Oh yeah, you might have a slide about that.
Oh yeah, that's what you were nervous about it.
Yeah, is that coming up?
Yeah, no, not yet. So,
Oh, okay.
But it's coming there. What I'm saying is, we finished the acclimatation process. It took roughly, it's day 40 of the expedition. It's time for us to go down valley. Some people might go down valley to lower elevations to gain more weight, to get stronger. In our case, we tend to stay in base camp all the time because our base camp is pretty cozy. And we just eat a lot, we sleep. We try to just recuperate a little bit. And now it's time for us to wait for that perfect summer window. Historically, our summer window has always been from May 12th to May 25th forward. That's the moment when the jet stream moves north. The earliest summit in my career is May 12th, and the latest summit is May 29th. But 90% of my summits has been on the range of May 16th to May 25th. And in the past, I was the first team of going for the summit window, just fixing ropes. And as the time passed, the older I get, and wisely I get, I guess. But at the same time, I realized that then too, the larger groups, our team, we make the effort to make our team as small as possible and as prepared as possible to be on Everest. But that doesn't necessarily, other teams are in the same boat. That means that, for them to make financially, it's all about numbers. The larger the groups, the more money you make. And the cheaper is for that climber to afford to climb Everest. And that's fair. But with that, it carries some issues. As the larger the group is, the more pressure you have to summit early and just go home early. It's just cheaper for you to maintain the climbers in base camp. Or because you don't have an experience and you say, I want to summit the first summit push because it needs to be done now. For us, now we choose to go later in the season because we want to skip from all that first wave of summiter pushers who tend to have less experience. And Reagan, you probably experienced a little bit about that. It was hard to be a base camp waiting for our perfect summer window.
It is. And, you're so ready, and it's an environment that, even though you guys do a tremendous job of making it as comfortable as possible, it's still not the environment that you're getting healthier or getting stronger. So you kind of want to get going, but also you did a nice job of setting everybody's expectation of what we wanted to do, and none of us wanted to climb in a crowd.
Yeah. So here is all the members and the Sherpas are resting, and it's a time for base camp manager, Damian and I, and some of the teams too, to start planning the perfect window. And it's a lot about just data and gut feeling, and a little bit of private investigation to figure out who's going up, what day, how are the members of that team who's going for the summit window. Same as you will affect you. The weather, how's that going to affect you? The temperatures, the winds, just so much information. You have to package it for the perfect summit day. And you guys got to see a scale over there that is red. Reds mean bad. And okay to arrive to South Col, the last camp 8,000 meters on the partial weather, but it's important for me is to have my summit day and my day out to get out of South Col on a really good weather. So we work it out, and then as time passed, you can see that the May 25th was a perfect day because I knew that May 26th, the weather still was pretty good. So it allowed me to get in and get out in a safely manner. Coming out is hard. You're pretty tired after summit, and if you have bad weather, things are tricky. In this case, we have our summit day preparation. This actually was our summit push of that year. And you can see how Georgie put the day we left South Col, when we arrived, the moment we arrived at the summit, and it's her job to track us exactly where we are all the time. I'm able to call on the radio and say, we are at such a place. Georgie is making all the math about how much oxygen we have and where, if we should, it's a brain working outside. I'm just focusing in the safety of the moment, and base camp manager keep us a little more awake. As Reagan was saying, waiting in base camp was difficult. It's just stressful, especially when you see all the teams going for coming down for their summit push. Some in good shape, others not, but they summit, and we are still in base camp getting fat.
Yeah, now that's the art of suffering, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Especially when you have chicken sizzler by the bubble rum. So anyway, yeah, with all that, there's a lot of stress involved. Our summit push is ready to go. We made it to Camp 2. And here, just it says a lot about our team and what we're trying to create as a team. We have a small group. We have Lobsandai on the back as one of our, he's an IFM Sherpa guy, one of the few certified international mountain guides, and the group and the front. As you notice, is Reagan laughing in the back. And the reason why he's laughing is because he was complaining perhaps I was moving too fast. So he wanted to slow me down. So he put a rock on top of my backpack. Already my backpack is heavy, so he's trying to make it heavy. But the point is,
yeah, it didn't work.
it didn't work. The point is, we have to make the effort to make it as fun as possible. And a lot of times it wasn't. There are some tough days, and the past, and the super tough days ahead. Sometimes I know the easy guys to handle. I can be a little bit on the too bossy, drill sergeant. I have high expectations, and obviously everyone has high expectations as well. But we just make it fun. I think I've done that to you in other places, Reagan, by the way.
That was payback.
Okay. So eventually we started a climb to Camp 3. Reagan, you want to tell us a little bit about how it was for you to summit Everest from here?
Yeah, and from here, the climb really changes coming out of Camp 2. You really start to feel the altitude more going up the Lhotse face. The climb gets physically more demanding. You can see the angle there is much higher. So you're exerting more energy, you're higher altitude, and coming into Camp 3, you really start to feel that you're high, and you're starting to feel the altitude more. And then out of Camp 3, you make your way. I think that's Camp 3 there, isn't it, Willie?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of stuck on the side of the Lhotse face, and you really don't want to stay there very long. It's more of a get to 3 and then get to 4 as soon as you can. And so after that, that's the picture. I'll let you talk about this, Willie, but
yes.
that wasn't our day.
No, that's definitely not our day. But what everyone, as I said multiple times in the past on this talk, is everyone has seen pictures of Everest and the craziness of Everest, and crowded, and people who definitely should not be there. And I agree, there's a lot of people who should definitely not be there, who I've seen people learning to put the crampons at base camp, learning to tie the ropes at base camp. And I completely disagree with that, saying that, yeah, don't worry about it. You will learn the skills in base camp, and my Sherpas will take you to the summit. Because that is extremely unfair for the Sherpas. It's extremely unfair for everybody else around you who did do the due diligence and did do the homework to be as self-reliant as possible. Reagan, for example. And I want to use these pictures as an example to show how crazy it could get. But with the proper planning, you can experience the opposite of that, of this loneliness, of this quietness. And I don't say you might be the only person in the entire mountain, because that's not true. The only way you can do that if you're going in the middle off season by yourself. Because it doesn't matter, you share the mountain still with hundreds of people. But if you choose well, you can limit it. You limit the amount of climbers around you. This is Reagan going up to. This is you actually getting to the South Col, and Reagan, as you remember, you're talking to me the other day. Yeah, I remember seeing a lot of people coming down. We have a lot of groups coming down.
Yeah, the timing was very fortuitous. We summited on May 25th, so we went from 3 to 4 on the 24th, and that's where we saw coming down several groups who had summited probably on the 23rd. And that weather window opened up early, people rushed up, good for them. But you let that first crowd go and clear, and then we were heading up. So we didn't have, I don't think, anybody that we waited for, Willie, on our summit day, except for once for maybe 20, 30 minutes at a section where you couldn't pass. The rest of the time, we kept the pace we wanted.
Yeah. So everyone, in the background of Reagan to the left, you're going to see the purple summit of Everest. You will see the triangle face and eventually the ridge line, where's the balcony in the south summit. That day is windy. It is a windy day. This is roughly about noon approximate. We trying to arrive at South Col quite early. And this is now for the opposite side. Looking down on the lower right side, I will see here the pointer. This is Camp 2 at 6,400 meters, and that is Camp 1 and base camp is down there. So we have come a long way up. And then eventually that summer window was strange because, as I said before, it was windy that day. It wasn't the best of the days as arriving in South Col. I was a little nervous about our timing when we're going to leave, so I was just figuring out the best time. I have idea of what time we should depart, but it was just depending about how the weather is going to drop. And Reagan, you remember a little bit, it was a little bit of stress that evening.
Oh yeah, when we got in, we weren't sure we were going to go the next day. And I remember in the tent with my buddy Mac, that we only got a couple hours of sleep, and then you woke us up and said, we're going. And I was pretty comfy in my sleeping bag. And I think I probably said, are you sure? But it paid off.
Yeah, it paid off. So we started, we still have some groups with us from other teams who they went ahead of us. And again, it's just about planning. It's just like playing chess. You plan all these things ahead of you, figure out where each team is going to be, and you're just trying to figure out if that team is there, I'm going to catch up with them and I'm going to go to passing here or there. Here, this is reaching the South Summit. And we plan in a way where I can pass a lot of the teams through the night. It's extremely dark, extremely cold, extremely claustrophobic when you're wearing the mask and the goggles and you feel you cannot really breathe that much. But we're able to move quite well. I think we passed a few teams that night, Reagan, correct?
I think we passed several, yes. Some of them at a break that they may have taken, and then some of them we unclipped, and I think you short roped, and all others did as well. And you know where to pass on that mountain.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a few times, so I kind of have my little tricks. So eventually arrive at the South Summit early in the morning. It's a beautiful morning, almost no wind at all. You can see it's no wind because you can see, everyone can see that the straps of the backpacks are completely flat, just like it was perfect. It's warm, you climb through the night, can see nothing, everything fog up, and but when the sun hit, it's just suddenly you go back alive from the death for some reason. It's just a strange feeling of climbing through the night, and when sunrise arrives, it's just suddenly you're alive again. And everyone has seen these crazy pictures from 2019 season where it was just a huge traffic jam in Hillary Step. And matter of fact, it was just fatalities last year in the Hillary Step because the traffic jam was so just big and people were not moving. Here, This is a place where Reagan was talking earlier about we wait for 20 minutes. The reason why we wait here is I want that team who is coming down to come up to here because that's easy for us. It was easy for us to pass versus keep moving and encounter them on a technical section is extremely difficult and dangerous to pass. You know, what happened here is everyone's had this summit fever, their tunnel vision, and they have these side things. They cannot think anymore, and they just keep moving. One person move 1 inch, you move 1 inch, and so on and so on. Eventually, you hit with somebody else, and you cannot pass, and no one's doing nothing about it. And you can spend hours not moving because no one is taking actions about fixing the problem. And here, this is how we fix it. It was just by waiting a little bit and let that group pass. And that worked out pretty good for us, Reagan.
Yeah, it worked out great.
We're waiting for that team to come down. The view is amazing. We have a good attitude. And this is testing Norway step. It used to be Hillary step. The Hillary step fell off. It's a big chunk of rock on the left side of the road. That fell off after the earthquake 2015. And as you can see, we have it for ourselves. And that's pretty straightforward for us. Reagan?
Yeah, no, it made it actually fun. It was a nice change of pace to get on something somewhat technical. You always read and hear about how crowded it is, so you prepared yourself to wait and freeze and be frustrated. And then when you get a green light, and that was actually, I think, one of the fun parts of the summit day.
It was good. So this is after the Hillary step. You can see how aggressive limit. Again, I mean, I have to say, still, the odds wasn't in my favor. I mean, you can plan everything you want, but still things can change. And you know, for us, we were able to wait a little bit. The weather wasn't looked that good on paper. It wasn't. It was looking good, but it still has a lot of what if. And eventually, it paid off. And you guys can see in the background Mont Lotse with the Lotse Couloir, Makalu to the left, just incredible peaks. And the views are amazing. And this is when all the hard work or years and years of training and practicing and suffering and having a good time, it's paid off. That doesn't mean we made it. I think we always make it to the summit. We say we summit Everest as when we arrive home. And that's just what we encounter on our summit. And then eventually, it's just Reagan and I. I have to say, Reagan is 6 foot plus, yes?
Yes.
Somehow
You're close. You're close to that.
Guys, this is a great moment to see you, to hear all this story, and then see you both on top.
Yeah, so we are on the summit of Everest, 8 something in the morning. You can, the view is just absolutely amazing, and we can experience it. And just, I don't know, it's just, it doesn't matter. I mean, after all these years of summit, and every time I get to the top, I cry a little bit. I have tears. You know, the tears doesn't come out that much because everything freezes right away. It's extremely cold here. Extremely cold. It wasn't that windy, but it just it's incredible. And you know, Reagan, how was it for you?
It was. I know it's very personal to everybody. You know, for me, my summit experience, Willie, really started after the step. You know, I knew we were going to make it. Day was good. Team was strong. Short walk to the summit. And, you know, and everybody who climbs knows that the best views are the highest. And there's no higher view than where we were standing. So, you know, pictures don't really do it justice. And then, you know, I got really grateful, Willie. I was there with you, with John and Mac and, you know, our Sherpa friends. And, you know, have the opportunity to do that is not something you're really sure you'll ever get to do. And then when you get it and you're not worried about the descent, you know it's going to be good. You've put a lot into it. A lot of your friends have put a lot into it with you and your family. I felt pretty grateful, still do.
So you might have to talk a little bit about Matt here.
Sure. Well, this is our friend Mac. Mac is an awesome climber. He learned to climb in the Northeast. He's been all over the world, and he is right in that picture experiencing his 7th summit. Actually, Willie, he's done all 8. He has done both of the Australian ones. So that was a big moment for Mac. For Mac, that had been many years in the making. That was his 3rd trip to Everest, and he was happy enough to take off his oxygen mask.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, nothing is possible with my brothers. Our Sherpa team from Lapa Bai, who's much younger than I am, to Lobsan, you know, just without them, it's just nothing is possible. And I own them many dreams because they're pretty unique. They're super strong. They're extremely kind. They're superhumans, and yeah, just without them, it was just impossible. And we have such amazing time with them. And then, without coming, it's going to end. I mean, I know this is super tight. It's so much talk. We can talk for hours about, well, this is how we use the oxygen and how we do this, how we do that. It's just, yes, that's for another chat. But for me, one is important thing about Everest, about climbing, I choose to be a guide when I was quite young in life. Growing up in Patagonia, in northeast of Patagonia, you know, it was population 8. That's just my family. That's it. We live miles away from the nearest town, which is barely 200 people. And, you know, best friends was my twin brother. And every time some tourists coming in, they would buy some fish for us. We were fishermen. They, you know, hey, could you take us fish or something? So we began to be kind of like guys, like quite young age. And a lot of people helped me along the way. Made it to the US. And that was just because a lot of people helped me. So I felt like it was always paid forward. And I put this picture of a young Matt Moniz. Matt Moniz is 10 years old, or 12 in the moment here. This is back in 2010. He's 10. He was along his father doing climbing the 50 highest points of all the states in of the United States in 50 days. Incredible feat. From Denali to Rainier to, I don't know what's the highest point of Florida, your building?
My pool.
Yeah. And so we met in Rainier. I was guiding in Rainier, and Matt kind of, you know, we instantly, his helmet is so big. We began to be friends, and I was so inspired by this tiny little kid just doing all this amazing thing. We began to be friends, and then we set up, years later, we set up as a goal, let's try to climb Everest, Lhotse, and Choyu. That didn't happen, but eventually it happened years later. And May 18, in 2018, Matt and I, we summited Everest. In the next day, so exactly less 24 hours later, we summit Lhotse. Right now, young Matt and I, we have climbed 4 8,000 meters peaks. And I think we're going to do a few more. And this is like, that's just for me, what climbing Himalayas has brought me is just this ability of being extremely grateful for experience and ability to pay forward. And I have to say that, as Reagan said, pretty well put, this summit, the views from the summit are extremely unique. And this is one of the views where I found it as the most profound views I have experienced in my life. I have to say then, for years and years, we have been in this idea, then already some English, some people, some Westerners have summit Everest. And I had some doubts. I think some Tibetans summit Everest way before us. Because if you see this picture and you see the shadow Everest over the Himalayas, the Tibetan flag is exactly like this. So I strongly believe in some Sherpa Tibetan way back in the years has summited Everest. And the last thing I'm going to say is that climbing mountains, doing these things is extremely dangerous. And just, just because you're a super strong climber doesn't mean you're safe. Just the best climber in the world is the one who died of old age. And this is just, I try to use it a lot because, just go and climb mountains, but be safe and come home because there's always people waiting for you at home. And Reagan, anything you want to say?
No, I think that's well said, Willie.
We have fun. It was awesome, our trip. Hopefully we're going to make it another one. I promise I'm going to grab a big rock next time.
Yeah, no ladders.
Willie, Reagan, this was such a great story. If you can just really move to the last slide so we can...
Yes.
Yeah, so guys, thank you a lot. It's been inspiring. It's been great hearing your stories. We'll go on to the Q&A. I'll just stop a moment to say thank you to Adventure Journal for co-promoting this event. Thank you, Willie, for sharing this story and sharing your thoughts and giving us also the positive side of Everest that today is often maybe not seen or in the light of some other things. And Reagan, thank you for sharing your story and showing us that things are possible if you put the time into it. So thanks a lot. To everyone, before we move to the Q&A, we did get a bit longer, I will say that, but it's very hard to I think this story is already short. One thing I'll say, as Willie doesn't like to advertise himself, which is yet another quality of a great man, Willie is a guide living in near Salt Lake City. You can, that's how he makes his living, except guiding on Everest. He also guides in the States and in his backyard in Wasatch. You can book him and go skiing with him in his backyard. If you're close to Park City or traveling there, I'm pasting the link where you can read more about this adventure. If you're thinking about Everest, Willie, you told me that Mount Superior is the place, one of the best places to test your initial skills and maybe see some gaps like you did with Reagan and make a training plan. And so you can find all of that on 57 hours. And maybe the first question that I will open with before we move on to the questions from the audience, and there are many, is can you just tell us really what is the situation with Everest in 2021? Is like what is the impact of COVID? Are the trips being planned? Can you just maybe reflect on this? And there were a few people who were even asking about doing Everest.
Well, I have to say that I know that it's a fact that there's a lot of companies who are already offering and planning to run trips in 2021 and this spring. And it's just really difficult to say if it is safe or not. We have really not much idea how this winter and COVID is going to deal with. We start getting vaccinations, but there's still a long way for this vaccination system to get effect. I personally feel that it's too early. I know as a fact, and Reagan knows this really well, that being Everest, because the way as your body is struggling to be at that elevation for so long, your immune system drops significantly. So the chances of you getting sick, that is the number one thing that can stop you to climb Everest. It's just you getting sick. As a matter of fact, I think in our trip, Reagan, I was sick, correct?
I think everyone was, Willie. It was kind of amazing. The Himalayan Rescue Association, I think, treated what 600 or 700 people that year for the flu and different illnesses. So that wasn't COVID year. So
No,
yeah, it's a difficult environment.
It's a cold environment. So just do you want to take a breeze? No, I don't. Just but honest, I don't want to have my Sherpa on my team or my staff take the risk. So I personally choose not to run a trip in the spring of 2021. And that is now primary. Secondary, let's just say then COVID is no issue. Secondary, after what we experienced in the last 3 years on the spring season, and what happened last year. Last year we ran a trip. Damien was guiding last year. He summited the day after all this nightmare happened. We had decided that it was no longer safer to climb Everest in the spring. Of the risk we want to accept that it was not there for the spring climb. It's just too many climbers. We cannot control that. Too many people, just too many climbers with no experience. There's too many companies with 100 clients and 100 Sherpas, which just has a strong stomach fever, and they just got up corners. We decided it's too risky. So we have chosen that for now on, we're going to run trips on the fall. Run trips in the fall, the climber is much harder. The chances of the summer window is extremely much limited. So it became to be climbing Everest how it used to be at the beginning for me in the beginning of my career, where it wasn't that much technology and the infrastructure, and it was just hard to get the perfect summer day. But in the fall, you're going to be climbing is Everest and you. And we want to go into that to the basic, to the need, to whatever it was for me. And I think the fall present that. So for everyone, you have to decide what is your best choice. I mean, if you want to summit Everest, you want to have high chances to summit Everest, I will say perhaps the spring will pays off. I consider the spring for me right now too dangerous because COVID and because I want the crowds. It's just too many people. The fall is going to be, the climate is going to be much harder. You started the trip on a warmer because it's summer towards fall. So it's warmer, but by the time you get to your summit day, the days are much shorter and colder, so the climate is harder. So you have to choose.
And did you already do a lot of fall trips? I know you mainly do the spring.
I have run only in the past because I didn't need to. I'd only done one fall trip. It wasn't for Summit Everest, it was for a film production. So I have to say it was a pretty unique experience because it was only us. It was no one else. So I felt being Everest on the fall, I felt like it was me on a new climb, unexplored mountain, first ascent. Mm-hmm. That energy I get from that environment, he wasn't attached to 500 people waiting for you online. It's pretty unique. We made only to count 3, that was our job. I feel right now with the technology, the infrastructure we have, then our success could increase higher on the fall.
Mm-hmm. And do you think we even have a question from Mike? He's asking what would you suggest to reduce the amount of queues? But I'm not sure if you can suggest, or maybe are there even ways to to reduce the amount of people just standing in line wanting to do the summit? Do you think that's a problem we can solve?
Well, that's going back to this. It's just hard because that's mean the only way you can do. Nepal needs money. The Nepal needs the money so they come to get me. Limited people doesn't mean less money for Nepal, and that's unfair. So all I had to say is increase the prices. So you limited the amount of people. Only a few people can go. And that is unfair for the person who's barely saving every single cent to reach his goal of summit Everest, his or her goal of summit Everest, and suddenly, oh, the race extra $100,000. It's not cheap. It's extremely expensive to climb Everest. And some people might think it's extremely irresponsible and unfair. So you're wasting your money, $100,000 in climb Everest. And my point of view is, well, you're buying $100,000 in a Ferrari of a car, or rebuilding your kitchen.
Yes, yes, and I have to say that I know, like all, for instance, all the Croatians I know that went on the expedition in 2009. None of them had the money, but they all like found a way to get sponsors and all that stuff. And I guess that's probably the way it goes. Like if you,
yeah, I would
you have
say
to find a way.
The only way you can just is improve the quality of the climbers who are allowed to climb Everest. And Reagan, what do you think about that?
I think it's a great theory. I think it'd make it safer. I think Nepal has talked a lot about it, and I think they've had a hard time implementing it. So
Yes.
Where do you draw the line? Is it exposure to a certain altitude? Do you have to climb a 7,000 meter peak? I think AMA is right below 7, and anybody who gets up AMA is probably qualified to climb Everest.
Yeah.
So it's a complicated deal, you know, and it still gets back to how do you fund the climbing fees for Nepal? So if you require a higher qualified climber, you might have fewer climbers. That could be fewer climbing fees. And then I'm not sure. So, I mean, I did think there were quite a few inexperienced climbers. I think you also have inexperienced guide companies. You know, I think that was as big a problem, and that's where the accidents are concentrated. So, you know, maybe you have more qualified guides, maybe you have more minimum requirements or some minimum requirements to climb it. I'd hate to make it, Everest is already somewhat elite. I'd hate to make it more elite.
Yes, I agree with that. And going to the point of unqualified expedition and everything, the mountain belongs to Nepal. And a lot of these so-called unqualified companies, you know, sign up, you know, they're Nepalese. But it's their mountain, it's their right to do by the end what they want. You know, it's just, I respect that. At the bottom line, the only solution to all these problems is to make the choice in my case, for me, I decide to make. I'm not going to climb in the spring anymore because that is not what I want, and I want for my experience in Everest. I'm going to climb in the fall because then I'm going back to my basics of what Everest was for me in 1999.
Great. And Willie, we have a questions for both of you guys, but maybe on that note, Willie, you can just expand a bit. There is a person called Morag asking about what is the main reason for people not making the summit? Is it like lack of fitness, lack of mental resolve, lack of technical skills, or what the reasons are, in your opinion?
In my opinion, the number one and the success rate is just you're getting sick. You're getting sick on the Kumbu cough, you know, some upper respiratory disease. Disease is just extremely common. Extremely, I mean, it's just like it goes once the flu is started in the Kumbu, it just takes the entire Kumbu, and it just everyone gets sick. That's just one. And then after that, we can go back to the mental and the technical part of not be strong enough mentally or physically or technically. Technically at the end, so maybe you can kind of bypass a little bit, but if you're not strong enough physically and mentally, that the lack of technical skills, you cannot overpass it. I don't know, Reagan, what do you think? Yes.
No, I think you're right. I think from what I'd seen, it's that being comfortable in that environment and emotionally supported and emotionally strong to keep that positive attitude is a big deal. So the people who don't do well away from home for an extended period of time, or they don't have the relationships on their team to support them, I've seen it be harder for them.
Yeah.
Great, Reagan. And then moving on to, so we have Jen saying, Reagan, that she's inspired that you started mountaineering at the age of 50 or over. And she'd love to know more about your initial steps you took. So I know you mentioned that you met Willie on Denali and then you took the journey together. And you were guided by Willie on Denali, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Well, Jen, you know, what I have learned about climbing, it's an unlimited opportunity to keep learning and being, to go play outside. So for me, I took a mountaineering course. A lot of companies will offer an initial mountaineering course. Willie mentioned Baker. Some do it on Rainier. I know Baker's very popular, the Cascades. Colorado does some, probably in Rocky Mountain National. And I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with as many international courses at that level, but I would take that course and then just progress from there. And I would try and take your time. I had my initial sights set on Denali because I thought it was a big challenge. I was right, it was a big challenge, but I probably would have been better doing a more progressive climbs rather than jumping right to Denali. It worked out okay, but you know, take a class, join a mountaineering club. I know Mazamas in Oregon, there's lots of clubs, Colorado, the West is full of them. Those can be very helpful, even the Eastern states. And then you can connect with some people who are getting out as well.
Great. And then along those lines, I mean, this is great, Reagan. And I didn't tell you, I'm personally inspired as well. I mean, it's so great that, you know, people of all ages take on challenges like getting to the top of the world. And maybe really for you, we have Andrea asking, is it possible to get prepared for climbing being 57? Can you even start even later? So did you have experiences with people who started really at an old age and then prepared with them to reach the Everest?
Yeah, but I mean, I think, you know, age could be a limitation or could not. I think the older is a upper 40 is a perfect age. 40s forward is a perfect age for high altitude because I think your body knows how to deal with a lot of pain and suffering in the adaptation to to uncomfortable environments and high altitude. Mm-hmm. The younger you are, you tend to be a go-get-it, and doesn't really work that well high altitude. I think the bottom line is sky is the limit. As long as you don't have any medical unrelated situation, as long as you just take your time and do your training and just, you know, and do your steps of 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, just to be there. I have guided in a client. He was 65. He kind of when he started. He was pretty unique. Wow. He was extremely strong. But he summited Everest 60 or 58, something like that, with me back in the years. And then 5 years later, 10 years later, he went back again with my brother and summited Everest again. So just, yeah, your background as how much time you spend outside playing outdoors makes a difference. If you never be outside and sleep in a sleeping bag. It was just a little tougher because, as Reagan said, being 60 days sleeping in a sleeping bag is uncomfortable, and that just emotionally that takes a toll.
Great. Well, thanks, guys. It's certainly inspiring. And then on another note, probably more for you, Willie, but I guess, Reagan, you've been there as well. You can a testament to that is, what is the impact of climate changes that happened recently on Everest? And are there like things that are significantly changing, or do you see changes at all, or?
Impact on climate, or so climate, yes?
Yes, impact of climate change on Everest. Yes.
Yes. Well, the thing the more noticeable for me is how the glaciers are melting at incredible speed. Incredible speed. I mean, I remember the icefall being rounded when I started climbing. Now it's just more sinking in. I see the Kumbo Glacier, the Western Kum, being dropping on volume significantly. I've not seen that big storm cycles. The weather is still pretty more stable over there, but I definitely see it. Just it's getting warmer, and I know as a fact that the average temperature in base camp has been warmer in the last couple of years. Reagan, I think you probably saw something like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it over the time span that you have, Willie. So I haven't seen those big changes, but I do know that it's probably becoming riskier to go through the ice fall. So once the jet stream moves off the top, your weather window opens up. But going through the ice fall, when it's warmer and warmer and warmer, creates greater motion and activity in the ice fall, and that's riskier.
Yeah. Back on 2005, the weather didn't open up in May 29. That's when we summited in May 29. And we put agreement with all the Sherpas. We all agreed that that's the last day we can summit, because summit Everest was possible, but getting down from Camp 2 to the ice wall was beginning to be a danger. And that I seen rivers virtually building up in Camp 2, on the Morena Camp 2 at 6,400 meters, than I have not seen in the past.
Thanks, guys. Well, it certainly is an issue, and we had other guys like from we did a webinar about polar regions, and the stories are even on a bigger scale and on the same note. So, but moving on to other questions, is Aaron is asking, Willie, if you would recommend doing another 8,000 meter peak before Everest, or is that like a necessity, a recommendation? I think, Reagan, you didn't do it, so maybe you guys can reflect on that. Is that 8,000 meter like a requirement, or?
Yes and no. Yeah, I mean, because what you have Manaslu and Choyu, the two other 8,000 meter peaks. Manaslu is a little, per se, I would like to think it's a little harder than Choyu. And if you can do it, I would say yes, most definitely. But it all comes to your background. How much time you spend on high altitude, how much time you spend camping and in the glacier, and your technical skills, and you name it. Yes, it doesn't matter what you do. Everything you can add on is extremely welcome. I mean, you climb Mont Blanc, 50 times is welcome. Yes, the more self-efficient, self-reliance, and more technical you are, and the more the easiest for you, let's just say, and Reagan knows this quite well, if you're going from to cover 500 feet of vertical gain through the ice fall, your movement skills are not that efficient, and it requires so much energy to go through that terrain. Then you're just wasting too much, a lot of energy. But if you're pretty good about moving in that type of terrain, suddenly your energy expenditure begin to be 10% versus 99%. If you, how to handle spend 10 days sleeping in a tent where everything freezes inside your tent, everything freezes inside your tent, and every single food you tried is crappy. Just that will help. And Reagan, you know that well about your movement skills coming down from Denali versus to how us now when I climbed the other day.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things you burn out on, and it's the same with skiing and everything else. But I think for the 8,000 meter, whether that's important, from my observation, it's you need to find out if your body is good at adjusting to altitude. And I'm not sure you have to go to 8,000 meters to find that. So I think you need experience at going to higher altitudes and how your body adapts to that. That to me is more the threshold question. And then I would totally agree with Willie. It's develop the skills so you're efficient and comfortable in that environment.
Yeah, a perfect example would be, let's just, when you come Joe, you're going up to come 1 without oxygen, you make it to come 2 without oxygen, and then after that, you take off in oxygen for some days. So you get the experience of what it takes to climb Everest with oxygen. But I can tell you, if you climb Denali and Aconcagua, you climb Aconcagua and other 6,000 meters peaks in the Andes, you will gain more experience of high altitude experience over there than climbing Joe.
Thanks, Willie. And then we had a question from Tonya. I think that Reagan, you can perfectly answer that because you were preparing for Everest in Florida, and she is asking if you can't jump on a high altitude mountain on a weekly or even a monthly basis. What's the best way to train? And I think you have a story to share there.
Well, in Florida, my training needed to be longer duration. So I had a running background, and 2-3 hours is a long run for running, but I needed to get out for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And so I needed to extend the duration of my training on my feet. And, Willie's grew up on the Patagonia coast and knows ocean well. So he suggested I just hike in the surf. So I hiked what one of my daughters called the Death March along the national seashore in Florida for 5, 6, 7 hours in the surf, carrying a backpack and trying not to drown. So I think it's important to get out on terrain that's variable, so you work on your balance. I think it's important to get out for longer periods of time, and then every chance she can get to a mountain is great.
Thanks, Reagan. And we also have a question from anonymous attendee. So it seems about. Sorry, it is from Thomas Engram. Sorry, Thomas didn't read correctly. And he's asking, after summiting a mountain like Everest, basically achieving your lifelong dream, is post-trip depression a thing? Does that happen? Willie, also you can chip in, but.
Well, I've only had it once. Willie has had 13 opportunities for post-trip depression, but I didn't have post-trip depression. So, you still have a long trip coming down and traveling back home. And Everest, unlike other mountains I've been able to ascend, just gets a lot of attention. So you're talking about it a lot, and it doesn't seem to end right after summit day. It kind of has a long tail after that. And I was able to keep busy with other mountains and other things outside. I could see where you might get a little, what do I do next? But I think it's a little greater that you feel empowered and you leverage off of that to go do something fun next.
How about you, Willie? After 13 times, do you have that, or it's still as good as it has been?
No, it's still as good as it's been. It's good. Every
Perfect.
time I go up, for me, it's a new summit, which is a unique opportunity. Coming down, no, I'm drained. I mean, the reality, I'm pretty drained out because my level of stress I carry and the amount of work is pretty high. So I'm not usually what I call it acceleration mode. So my body, let's say I ride to base camp and for whatever we're going to come and do. In the next 2 weeks, all I do is eat. And I eat. And I eat. And I eat. That's the only thing I feel like. People ask me questions about Everest and everything, and I'm trying to answer the best I can. But as Reagan said, it doesn't feel there. People, weeks later, there's still people asking you. But the only thing I notice for expeditions, in my experience, is I coming down to civilization, and my brain, all they want to do is just eat.
Nice. That's really nice. And then really one other thing that maybe touches a bit on the crowded and often discussed negative side of Everest, and that is about Oliver is asking that in the late 90s, it was reported that Everest is getting polluted, that there is a lot of trash. And what is happening on that note today? Are there any improvements?
Yeah, I can tell you, yes, it's pretty bad. Actually, it's bad because obviously, when you think about it, it doesn't matter what you do, you being there has an impact. We have done a pretty good job of saying, okay, all the trash of base camp is being taken down to Kathmandu to look. Namche is being recycled. We actually do recycle. Everything is being separated by material. The solid waste of base camp, human solid waste of base camp is being taken out in these containers and taken down outside of the mountain, and which is a big issue of their own. Upper part of the mountain, our solid waste has been through in the crevasses. It's the same deal as Rainier, for example. The trash is being pretty down, but that is not necessary. Then what I do is followed by everybody else. I mean, there are amazing other companies, just awesome companies who do a really good job and trying to. The impact of leave no trace is just as less as possible. Also, I mean, the footprint is just almost trying to make as less as possible. But there's a lot of companies who they're not. There's a lot of expeditions that they're not at all, and just leave trash everywhere, and it's a big issue. When I climbed Everest for the first time, and he was right, in 1999, I arrived to South Col, and which is things everywhere, bodies, you name it, everywhere. And matter of fact is, I found an ocean bottle from 1952, the Suez expedition, and I found an ocean bottle from the Hillary expedition.
Wow.
So, because I arrived early as I would call it, I'm going to go and explore things. So I find a lot of things. I was young. I was a little impressed, and I saw, a body. I said, oh my God, I freak out. And, eventually it came to be second nature. But that, through the years, it's been all cleaned up. Everything was completely cleaned up. South Col was spanking clean. All the ocean bottles are taken out. All the trash is taken out, all the bodies are taken out. And by the fact it's just all these alternative facts, social media, internet, then there's bodies everywhere in Everest. That's not true. Every single body has been taken out. There are few who are missing, who are nowhere found out. So no, the month, that was up in 2003. Right now it's just garbage everywhere. It's garbage everywhere because that company who has 100 clients with 100 Sherpas, with the clients being such a low technical levels and the biggest struggle requires 5 Sherpas to bring one person down. So they don't have enough manpower to bring all that trash down. And if, so I bring him down or her, or I bring that garbage, I just, all that garbage, I leave that garbage. And I have begun to be discussed about the amount of garbage in South Cold now and come to. I've seen teams dumping big bags of garbage up to crevasses and come to. It's the elephant in the room. No one want to talk about it. And then we have taken pictures. We have put pictures on the web and everything, but nothing's going to change until I think we make it more like, as a client the client has a responsibility to be sure that his or her impact in that mountain is not, it's just less. So I cannot pretend that I will leave everything on that staff, on the Sherpa to take care of. Me as a client say, hey, no, we need to bring the garbage down. I'm going to help you bring the garbage down.
Great, Willie. Yeah, that is certainly a big problem. And hopefully, I mean, we can all always take action. Even every single person can do something. And I like your message that where you say that we have to be responsible every step of the way. And I think that applies not only to Everest. When you go to your climbing area, like don't leave trash. And if you see trash, just take it home with you and clean it up. For me, that was always like, I never liked, like as a sport climber of young age, you often see cigarette buffs and all that stuff. You always pick that up because it's like, I'm going climbing. I like the nature and I would like to keep it the way it is. And I think that's the message that applies from your local area to top of the world.
Yeah.
Make sure that you leave no trace.
Yeah, Reagan, you remember how we arrived at Camp 2, how this castle was Camp 2. But at the same time, you remember we coming down with our backpacks. Everyone.
Yes.
Coming down, big loss. We were trying to print everything we can. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes not. I know I did pull you some trash. You didn't notice it.
I found it when I got home.
Yeah, and Willie, I think we are getting a bit long, but maybe just a few more questions. I see people. I mean, we still have a lot of unanswered, but I think we can have a few more before we close it off. And Simon Phillips is asking about acclimatization and more details on that. More in detail, he's asking: is there a minimum elevation before you need to start actually acclimatizing, or does it depend on the elevation you used to live for, or what are the best practices? I know you talked about how it goes on the Everest, but is there a general rule of thumb that you can apply everywhere, or it just based on you individually?
Well, we consider high altitude of 3,000 meters, 9,000 feet. That's what we consider high altitude already. So I want to say that it all depends, your background, your genes, how well you're. I mean, it's just a lot. It's a lot of what if and behind how good you do high altitude. My rule of thumb is, climb high, sleep low, and go as slow as possible. Take your time. You can sneak in, as just for example, come to fly to Geneva, gone to Chamonix, right away the tram to Dumidi, going straight up to Mont Blanc, come down in less than 24 hours, you can do it. But if you spend the night on the Gia Dumidi and you always stay there, you're going to suffer high altitude. The bottom line is less than, we say less than 300 feet, 300 meters per day elevation gain, you're good. You should not.
That's a great rule, and I actually should have listened to this webinar before I went to Chamonix and did exactly what you said, and suffered from high altitude sickness for a night, even at like less than 3,000. I think it's 2,700, or something like that. So taking it slow is probably the best advice you can take. And
You
then
know,
there is
that's the correct thing to do, by the way.
Sorry?
That's not the correct thing to do. If you don't have that much experience in high altitude, you should not play the game. They're not going to go into summit day to Mont Blanc in one single push, because you might crash near the summit.
Yeah, no, I mean, we didn't go to the summit. Even going to IFMGA D and climbing there was enough for me to suffer a bit the first time, you know.
Yeah.
And then maybe one question, which is, I don't know how precisely you can answer it, but Carolina is asking, you know, where is the limit about like how bad you feel, and if you should like push on through, or you should just stop and maybe take a step back, or even give up on what you do,
Reagan,
or what you want to achieve.
I think it kind of depends on what your issues are. So, and altitude sickness, pushing through is usually not the answer. So if you have symptoms of acute mountain sickness, you have a headache, you have nausea, as those worsen, the only cure for that is to go down. And so toughening up and pushing through that when you're suffering from high altitude sickness is not a good idea. If it's your muscles are sore, you know, you're struggling with your energy, you have a sore back and you need to push on, that's kind of an athletic response. So I think, to me, it would depend upon what's the person's background. You know, start doing a lot of athletic things where you push and learn your body. But then when you see signs, or the people you're with that see signs of you actually having an illness, sometimes pushing through that is not the right answer.
Yeah, high altitude sickness is the one you cannot push. You push high altitude, you push through high altitude sickness, you will die, plain and simple. That's physiology. You cannot push that. You cannot go through that. All the rest, environment and physical, it all depends on your pain tolerance, how much you can push it. But if you arrive to a certain elevation and you start feeling sick and you keep pushing, you feel more sick, you keep pushing, you will find yourself in a really nasty situation.
That's probably where practicing the art of suffering in limited amounts is valuable.
Yeah.
Great, guys. I think we could wrap it up. I mean, we have been here for 2 hours. We have 125 very loyal people listening all the way through the Q&A. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for staying. And guys, maybe just one last word from both of you, Reagan and Willie, to our audience. So
just do your homework, guys. Have fun, be safe, and do whatever you can to help Nepal. That's just my answer. Right now, Nepal needs your help. So that's all.
Yeah, and I'll just say thank you very much. Thanks for being attentive. Thanks for the questions. And, you know, the mountains are calling and you must go.
I like that.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Take care.
And perfect end of the story. See you all in January for the next round of webinars. Guys, thank you very much, and enjoy the holidays and stay safe in these times.
Well, go skiing. Ciao.
Ciao.
Perfect. Bye. Bye, everyone.